Good evening, YouTube. Welcome back to the channel. This is IMX Sports with another football video, and today I'm going over my mid-season NFL power rankings for the 2022 NFL season. For those of you who are familiar with the channel, I'm sorry I haven't uploaded in a long time. I've been dealing with life stuff, but I'm back, and I am excited to make some more videos. I'm going to be doing a lot of basketball stuff, a lot of football stuff coming up, so if you're interested, make sure to check out the new videos as they come out. Without further ado, let's get right into it. First off, we have the dumpster fire, as always. I have Seattle Seahawks at 32, the New York Giants at 31, the Panthers at 30, and the Atlanta Falcons at 29. The Seahawks lost Russell Wilson. They've also lost Bobby Wagner, other players. They're trying to trade away all of their wide receivers. I don't see the Seahawks doing anything next year, considering they went 6-10 last year with Russell Wilson most of the season. I think they're going to continue their downward trend. The Giants have been bad for 3 years in a row, and I don't see Danny Dimes doing anything anytime soon. I have the Panthers and Falcons at 30 and 29. The Panthers have Sam Darnold, and their team hasn't improved at all from last year. Christian McCaffrey isn't on great terms with the team, from my understanding, and I think that they are trying to trade him. Even if they don't trade him, I still would probably put them at 30 or 29. They didn't have an impressive end to the season last year, and overall, they usually end up with about 6 wins. The Falcons I have at 29. They lost Matt Ryan after their third 7-win season in a row, and he was the only redeeming quality of that team. They also lost Russell Gage to Tampa Bay, and I don't see them doing anything next year. I think that they'll probably end up with 4 wins at most. The next category, these teams had some fight towards the end of the year last year. We have the Lions, the Jets, the Texans, the Bears, and the Jaguars. Notice how these 4 teams all have brand new rookie quarterbacks. The teams in the previous category all have quarterbacks that have been tried, tested, and generally not done well. But all these teams, except for the Lions, have rookie quarterbacks. That's why the Lions are last, because Jared Goff had his chance as a starter of a not Super Bowl winning team and didn't do too hot with it. I still think Jared Goff has potential, so the Lions are not in the dumpster fire, but I don't see them doing anything. With the other 4 teams, Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, Davis Mills, and Zach Wilson all showed some sort of resolve or some sort of skill at some point in the season. Trevor Lawrence, obviously the first pick of the draft last year. The Jets team hasn't changed much, but Zach Wilson did play well towards the end of the season. Davis Mills was probably the second best rookie on the field last year, and Justin Fields didn't get as much play time as the other people in this category, but the Bears do have a strong defense and a team that they can try and build around. So I think all of these teams have some potential for next season. I don't think any of them are making the playoffs, but I do think that one of them will do well. The next category is mediocrity at its finest. These teams are going to be the most mediocre teams in NFL history next year. We have the Washington football team, we have the Minnesota Vikings, and the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers are, mark my words, going to find some way to finish 8-1 or 9-8. They do every single year. They haven't been below 517 seasons with or without Ben Roethlisberger. I think this year they're probably going to finish 8-8 or 9-8. Somehow, I don't think that there's any chance they make the playoffs, and I think that there's very little chance that they don't get to 500, which means they can only really be 9-8. So, yeah, that's my opinion on the Steelers. As for the Vikings, Kirk Cousins, I believe currently is 500 in his career. I think he's only had 1 season where he hasn't gone 500. Last year he was 8-9, so this year he's probably going to be 9-8 or maybe 8-9 depending on how he feels. But he's usually not with more than a game up or down from 500. And then Washington's won 7 games, like 3 of the last 4 years. So I think that's probably where they're headed for this season, probably around 7-10. None of these teams made any changes from last season except Ben Roethlisberger retired. So because all these teams kind of stayed the same, I think that they're all going to stay pretty mediocre. Next, we have the teams with some solid potential. The Eagles finished 9-8 last year, although all 9 of those wins came against teams that did not make the playoffs. They didn't have any real impressive wins. Their only impressive win, I guess, was against the Saints, and that was without Jameis Winston. The Saints, on the other hand, started 5-2 with Jameis Winston, and then once Jameis Winston got injured, their season started going downhill. Sean Payton also retired, so I think that although their injuries are going to be recovered from, Michael Thomas will hopefully be back, and Jameis Winston hopefully won't be coming off the field at the beginning of the season. Although I don't think that they're going to be the same team that they were at the beginning of last year, I think that they're still going to have a solid chance at getting the 6 or 7 seed in the NFC. I think they'll definitely be stronger than the Eagles and all of the teams in the previous category. But without Sean Payton there, and with the minimum sample size that we saw Jameis Winston play last season, it'll be interesting to see how the season develops for the Saints. And it'll be interesting to see how strong that team really is, because I think that they do have a lot of potential, but we haven't been able to see it yet. The next category is the Moody Teenagers. I think that these teams are going to be all over the place next year. Matt Ryan actually has a defense for the first time in his entire career. He actually hasn't ever had any players play on the defensive side of the ball a single season that he's played football. They did hire like 5 defensive players the year they made the Super Bowl run, but they all retired halfway through the game. So Matt Ryan does in fact have a defense this year, all 11 players of them, and I think that that's going to make the Colts a pretty decent team. They did have a quarterback upgrade from last season. Yes, Matt Ryan is an upgrade from Carson Wentz. There's no doubt about that in my mind. And with that, the Colts are going to be there. The AFC is stacked for next season, but the Colts are definitely going to be in the mix. I have the Patriots at 17. We didn't make any major changes for this season, but Mac Jones is going to be a year older. Josh McDaniels left, so we're going to have a different offensive scheme. Kendrick Bourne is going to be a year older. He had a fantastic season last year, but never got the ball. We also did pick up Devontae Parker. So not a lot of moves were made, but I think that the team being a year older, having a year more influence together. I know we did lose J.C. Jackson, but we re-signed Malcolm Butler, which I think will be an interesting decision in the long run. But Belichick's never had an issue on defense, even if he has lost players before. So I think our defense will be all set, but the offense will mesh at some point in the year. The Dolphins, I have above the Patriots. They had a better end of the season. The Patriots lost 3 of their last 4 games, while the Dolphins had a massive winning streak, only barely missing the playoffs by 1 game. They also added Tyreek Hill to their squad, but they did get rid of Brian Flores. I think that getting rid of Brian Flores will have a massive, massive, massive detriment to their defense. I think that their defense is still going to be okay, but it's not going to be the same defense we've seen the last couple of seasons. And I think that the Dolphins are a major wild card for next year. As for the Ravens last year were 7-5 with Lamar Jackson. They were 1-4 without Lamar Jackson. I expect to see something similar to the 7-5 team for next season. I think that they're still going to be a pretty solid team, but it's hard to take a team from 2 years ago and say that it's the team that they have currently. They're also in a tough division. I think that they're gonna have a brutal schedule to play, and I think that all 4 of these teams are major wild cards. Any of them, I think one of these 4 teams will make the playoffs. I don't know which one. And I have 8 other AFC teams above all 4 of these teams, and only 7 make the playoffs. But I do think one of these teams will somehow sneak their way into the playoffs. Rising up or falling down, we have the Cowboys, the Raiders, the Browns, the Cardinals, and the Chargers. Cardinals and Chargers have fallen a couple pegs from last season. The Cardinals and Cowboys have fallen a couple pegs from last season. Browns and Raiders have shot way up. The Chargers kind of stay around the same as where I had them at the end of last year. The Cowboys lost Amari Cooper, not to mention they didn't really have too many impressive wins over the course of last season. Whenever they saw too much challenge in their schedule, they didn't really perform too well. They lost in the first round of the playoffs, and now Amari Cooper is gone. I think that the Cowboys are still going to be a strong team. They're obviously going to make the playoffs in that division, but I don't see them being anything impressive. The Raiders beefed up their defense. They got Devontae Adams. I still think that Derek Carr is going to be Derek Carr at the end of the day. I think he's going to throw for 1 million yards and also 500,000 interceptions and 500,000 touchdowns. But at the end of the day, I think that in that division, the Raiders are going to be demolished. I don't see the Raiders making the playoffs, although I do think that they're stronger than all of the teams in the Moody Teenagers category. I think that all 4 of the Moody Teenagers have a better chance of making the playoffs than the Raiders, simply because the Raiders have a gauntlet of a schedule to go through. And you really only make the playoffs with that type of schedule if you're a top 10 team, or more specifically a top 5 team. The Browns have added Deshaun Watson and Amari Cooper to their already mediocre team. Deshaun Watson hasn't played football in 2 years by the time the season starts, because he missed 1 season, but that's 2 years total that he hasn't really played. That being said, I do think that he's still going to be a formidable challenge for anyone who faces the Browns. Their defense is probably going to take a step up this year. Kevin Stefanski had a great year last year, and I think that the Browns are going to find a way to continue playing at a high level that they saw a couple of years ago when they made the divisional round. The Cardinals, not much to be said with the Cardinals. I don't think that they've made too many major moves this year. They just kind of fell a little bit down the list because other teams improved, and the end of their season last year was unimpressive. And then the Chargers are at 10. They have beefed up their defense to a whole new level. And I think that that's going to really take some of the pressure off of Justin Herbert in close games. Strong contenders, we have the Packers, the 49ers, the Titans, the Broncos, and the Bills. The Packers lost Devontae Adams. Their defense is a year older. Their defense also wasn't playing its best at the end of last season. Aaron Rodgers is a year older, and another divisional round loss behind him. The reason why the Packers are below San Francisco is San Francisco had a better end of the season last year, eventually beating the Packers. They also had some injuries. They're going to be healthy at the beginning of next year. And again, the Packers lost Devontae Adams, making Allen Lazard their number 1 wide receiver. At number 7, we have the Tennessee Titans. Derrick Henry will be healthy for next season. That automatically puts them at a top 7 team. Their offense is automatically improved because of that. If Derrick Henry was healthier for the playoff game last year against the Bengals, I think the Titans win that game. Derrick Henry had just gotten back from being out for 8 weeks, so he obviously wasn't in full form. But I think that the Titans are going to be back to normal next year, and they're going to have a great season. I have the Broncos at 6 and the Bills at 5. Every single time that Russell Wilson has had a defense, he's made it to the divisional round. He hasn't had a defense in 4 years, so it'll be interesting to see, maybe even 5 years. It'll be interesting to see how he does with the defense. Similar to Matt Ryan, except he's better than Matt Ryan, and the team he's going to is better than the team that Matt Ryan has. But it's still a similar situation where he really hasn't, there's been 2 or 3 people on the field the last few years, but now he has a full 11 men on the field on defense. The Bills are at 5. They lost in the divisional round last year. Heartbreaking loss. They really should have won that game, but Kansas City got the ball first in overtime, and yeah, not much else to be said. Actually, sorry, Kansas City did not get the ball first in overtime. The Bills got the ball first in overtime. Kansas City turned it over. NFL's elite, we have the Rams, the Bucks, the Bengals, and the Chiefs. You will never, ever, 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 ever see me put any other team other than the Super Bowl winners at number 1 for the next season's power rankings. Even if nothing changes, even if they lose all of their players, no matter what happens, they will always be number 1 out of respect for what they did the previous season. The Rams are the best team in the NFL. They also added Bobby Wagner to their squad, and even with their they probably have the hardest schedule in the entire league for next season. I still think they're going to finish 12-5. They have a fantastic team, and I think they're going to have just the same success. Tampa's at 2 because Tom is back and he brought all of his buddies back with him. The reason why they're above the Bengals is because I think that the Bengals definitely deserved to be in the Super Bowl next year. I'm just curious to see how they do next year. I think that I want to see another season of them. We've seen Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes is tried and true every year. We haven't seen enough of the Bengals, in my opinion, to say that they're going to be a contender every single season. I thought about putting the Bills as the best team in the AFC, but I wanted to give respect to the Bengals for making the Super Bowl. And Tyreek Hill, they also beat Kansas City twice last year, at the end of the season and in the playoffs. Kansas City is at 4 because they lost to the Bengals twice, and because Tyreek Hill is no longer on the team. He's on Miami. So with the loss of Tyreek Hill and those losses towards the end of the season last year, I have Kansas City at number 4. There's an argument for the Bills to be either 3 or 4 for sure. But, I mean, yeah, that is an argument, but maybe the Bills should be in the elite. Either way, Bengals, Chiefs, and Bills all definitely tied for the best team in the AFC, with the Broncos closely behind with Tennessee. So those are my pre-draft power rankings for the 2022 NFL season. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and hopefully you guys are excited for more videos coming out soon, because I sure am. Sorry again for being gone for a while, but I have returned, so I'm excited, and I'll see you guys all in the next one. Peace.